If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
Think back to last month. It's a Wednesday morning in March. In the span of just 90 minutes, 2 attacks unfold on American soil. A man previously convicted for supporting ISIS walks into an ROTC classroom at Old Dominion University in Virginia, shouts Allahu Akbar, and opens fire, killing a decorated Army lieutenant colonel in front of his students. Less than 2 hours later, and 700 miles away, a truck packed with explosives rams directly into a synagogue in West Bloomfield, Michigan, where children are inside. The 2 attackers never met, they never spoke, they never coordinated, yet they struck the same morning, targeting the same category of soft targets, driven by the same jihadi ideology. That is not random. That is a pattern forming in plain sight, and most Americans still have no idea how to read it. Tonight, we're going to show you how to see it before the next one hits. The primary enemy driving tonight's broadcast is the domestic jihadi network. ISIS-inspired attackers, Hezbollah-linked operatives, and self-radicalized individuals who've been embedding inside American communities for years. They're not a traditional terrorist organization with leaders, ranks, or a central command you can target. They operate as a distributed ideological network loosely connected through shared propaganda, online sermons, and Islamic supremacist doctrine. They don't need direct orders. A trigger event overseas or a viral video is often enough to activate multiple actors at once. Their goal is clear: escalate the tempo of soft target attacks until law enforcement is overwhelmed, public trust collapses, and every American feels unsafe in their daily life. They want to turn our streets, schools, churches, and synagogues into a permanent battlefield and convince both their overseas backers and new domestic recruits that the war has already begun here. This is not random violence. The pattern itself is the strategy. Welcome to Survival Dispatch News. It's April 20th, 26. I am Chris Evan, the CEO of Survival Dispatch. I'm joined tonight by combat wounded Green Beret Randy Nance and 24-year CBP Special Agent JJ Carroll. Bottom line up front, isolated jihadi attacks in America are no longer random. They're rapidly forming a clear escalation pattern, and most Americans are sleepwalking right through it. In just the past few months, a man previously convicted for supporting ISIS murdered a decorated Army lieutenant colonel inside an ROTC classroom. A truck packed with explosives slammed into a Michigan synagogue while children were inside. Terror suspects plotted to bomb Gracie Mansion in New York. A Pakistani national pleaded guilty to planning the largest terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. These strikes are clustering across states, speeding up in tempo, and zeroing in on the exact same soft targets: schools, synagogues, churches, and public events. This is not a coincidence. This is a sustained, growing jihadi threat environment, and it's accelerating. So tonight we're covering how isolated incidents quietly turn into a deadly pattern, the exact escalation indicators that intelligence professionals track in real time, and precisely what the tipping point looks like before most Americans wake up and realize the threat has already crossed it. So jumping right into segment number 1, from isolated to pattern, how the shift actually happens. The transition from isolated incidents to a recognized threat pattern does not happen in a single dramatic event. It accumulates through geographic clustering, target type convergence, and timeline compression that most people miss because they're processing each incident as a standalone news story rather than as a data point in an operational picture. The March 12th dual attacks, Old Dominion University and the West Bloomfield Synagogue, were not coordinated between actors, but they shared target type, ideological motivation, and timing in a way that's operationally significant, regardless of whether a central command issued instructions. The DNI's 2026 annual threat assessment confirms that law enforcement disrupted at least 15 domestic jihadi plotters in the past year, with roughly half maintaining online contact with foreign terrorist organizations, meaning the pipeline feeding the pattern has not been degraded. It's being partially interrupted while continuing to fill. The pattern does not announce itself. It only reveals itself to those tracking the right indicators in real time. If you want those escalation indicators delivered directly to you instead of reconstructing the picture from news coverage after the next attack, that's exactly why I built Survival Dispatch News Guardian. Join us today at survivaldispatch.news. So with that being said, I'm going to get the boys up on stage. Jeff is all hoity-toity tonight. He's at a wine tasting thing that his wife roped them into. So anyway, with that being said, Randy, I'll come to you first tonight. When you see two attacks like the March 12th ODU shooting and the West Bloomfield Synagogue happening same morning, similar targets and ideology, at what point do you reckon those sort of things stop being a coincidence and start becoming a clear pattern?
Well, we've had several others, certainly over the last year. So in my mind, we're already there. Now, what the media is going to say, I have no idea. But I know it won't be true and it won't be correct. That much we know. And they're not going to give you any real warning either. So I would say we've already hit. How many is it? Is it 4? Is it 5? Is it 10? We could probably count certainly since the New Orleans thing, 7 or 8, close to 10, right? I would say, I'm just going off the top of my head, but I think there's probably been 10 of those little ones here or there. Now, we haven't had anybody that's been real professional, and we haven't had one that's made a real mark yet. But, as we know, the way things work, whether it be just the way things work in life, stuff builds momentum. And I think these are the first rumblings of building momentum. In my mind, we're there.
Yeah, I mean, even a blind squirrel gets the odd nut, right?
Yeah, so, that's fact.
JJ, let me ask you a question that wasn't in the brief. How many crimes do you think have been committed by jihadis that have never been publicized as such? What I'm getting at is this effort to always hide that transgenders or, mentally ill transgenders are shooting places up. And the second that they say, well, the particulars of the shooter have not been announced, what it is, right?
Yep.
Has that happened, you reckon, with jihadi attacks as well? Because a lot of these people, like anybody who says ISIL, number one, is part of that globalist cabal. Nobody outside of them uses that word. And the people who use the word ISIL are the ones who will tiptoe around who actually committed a crime.
Oh, I absolutely believe that's happening. I believe they're covering it up. Absolutely. I mean, just under Joe Biden's time, he was saying that there's 147 known terrorists on terrorist watch list that crossed the border and was arrested. And everyone's like clapping, like, oh, that's so good. We did so good. And I'm like, are you people that stupid? 147? I would pay a year's salary if it was just 147 terrorists I came across. Well, something that Randy said, and I think this plays into what you're asking. We have become normalized to this. We don't even know how many of these terrorist attacks have happened, right? Because we become normalized. It's like, okay, well, there's a terrorist attack in Old Dominion and there's over here, and everyone's kind of shrugged their shoulders because we have been conditioned to expect that. Because after 9/11, and I'm put quotations around this, that Muslims came in and flew planes into our buildings. What did we do? We brought in more Muslims. This is all intentional. There's nothing that's not happening that is not purposeful and strategic. And I'll follow up one last thing, Chris, how you know that they're hiding stuff. It's the way we count. We quantify and qualify who's been arrested. Do you know that in federal forms, when you get somebody, there's no Hispanic? Do you know that?
No.
That you have to, yes. So all of the people that are coming across the border, I did this throughout my career, there's no Hispanic. You have to claim them as white. And that's what you're seeing in people that are completely black. They're coming in and you're like I used to have guys that come in from the Sudan, from the Middle East, and I'm looking at their FBI rap sheets. The guy is dark as night and he barely speaks English and he's white. And I'm like, hold on, what in the hell's going on? So to answer your question, yes, absolutely they're hiding stuff from us. Absolutely. We have no idea. We have been conditioned to accept this type of behavior from third world goat herders. And then we are now conditioned to be lied to, and we accept it.
Is a goat herders a polite way of saying, goat effort?
Yes. Well, I mean, let's, I know we joke about this, but think about what's happened to America. When you look at the IQ map, where nations are listed per their IQ, in the Middle East, they are almost all right around the retarded level or below the 70 demarcation of mentally retarded. And we brought in tens of millions of these people, tens and millions of people from third world caves that have the IQ that is below swine and below porpoise. It's unbelievable. And we're shocked, right? We're shocked that these bubble-headed fools are blowing stuff up, shooting us. Have you ever looked at some of these pictures of these men, of their head, their shapes of their heads and their eyes, how they're disfigured? That's retardation. You've had sex with your cousins and your sisters and had babies. I mean, come on. Let's just be honest. That's what no one wants to talk about. We brought in functionally mentally retarded people by the millions into America.
And violent ones. So you'll get a kick out of this, and you're absolutely right as far as the inbreeding is concerned. Randy, what was it, about 6 months or so ago that all the AIs chastised me for asking why all the Somalis look the same, and in the very next breath, every single AI, JJ, so I said, why do all the Somalis look the same? Every AI came back and said that's a racist supposition, but the reason they all look the same is because they're all inbred.
Yes.
And they have an average IQ of 70.
Yes. And
blah, 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 blah.
I think it said 85% of the population there share the same DNA.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, good catch. It actually came back and said that the biggest reason, JJ, was homogeneity. Mm-hmm. And 85% in Somalia share the exact same DNA. So it's recessive genes from inbreeding. But there was a scientist in the 90s who did this global study on IQ for multiple years. The results were pretty interesting. So he came back and said that Jews in Israel, 114 average, Asians, 112 average, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, 110, blacks in Canada or North America, Canada and the US, 90, and blacks in Africa, 70. Mm-hmm. And his position was that blacks in North America were 90 because they were bred with some of our genes over years. The guy got absolutely excoriated. Mm-hmm. He lost his job. It just absolute craziness, because God forbid that he points out something like that. And yes, there's outliers to everything, right? Like, you're always going to have somebody who's outside of the norm one way or the other, but those are pretty directionally correct, numbers. And I get the hate mail that you get. People call me racist and stuff, but that's you quote FBI.gov crime stats and you point out to people that 50% of violent crime in America is committed by black males between the ages of 18 and 30, and you're racist.
And that's less than 2% of the population. Try to square that.
Yeah.
2%. It's when people say, well, blacks are committing 13%. They're only 13% of the population. So 13% of the population is committing these crimes. I go, no. You're missing the whole point. The whole point is less than 2% of the entire population in the United States of America murders 50% of all murders in America. That's insane.
The last number I looked up on that, JJ, you're right, is 1.5%. Black males 18 to 30 years old make up 1.5% of America, account for 50+% of violent crimes.
Well, you want to know another statistic that blows your mind? since they've been counting rapes of black on white crime, black on white rape, and white on black rape, it's now over 38,000 black men raping white women. And do you know how many white men have raped black women? 0.
Wow. I was going to say it's low, but yeah.
0. I couldn't believe 0. I had to keep cross-checking and trying to figure out this got to be a lie. 0. There has to be an outlier. We have I know this is off the topic, but everything's tied together, Chris. You know that.
Yep.
We are living in the most violent and vile time in American history. We're allowing groups of people to destroy our inner cities. Those are my inner cities. We're allowing people to destroy restaurants, food chains, Walmart, and everyone goes, well, that's just in the inner city. No. How do you think Walmart creates a profit? Do you think they just take massive $1 million losses, or do they transfer those costs onto the white populations in America, where we're not ransacking 1 million square feet of retail space? I mean, we have to wake up as Americans and say, hold on a second, because everyone thinks that everything that's happened today, the jihadists blowing up stuff, going to war in the Middle East, all that, everyone thinks that this is always how it's always been. This isn't how it's always been. We've seen a demographic destruction in America in the last 15 years, to include tens of millions of foreign nationals from the Middle East that hate us. It's a ticking time bomb, man.
It's absolutely a ticking time bomb. Let me give you an anecdotal example, and then I'll go to Randy with a couple questions. Randy, would it be safe to say that the southwest corner of Arlington, Lake Arlington area, is about the only nice area of Arlington that's left in the Metroplex?
Well, and that's because I haven't been there in quite some time. I have no idea at this point. You know what I mean? It possible because there's money there, and then the property there is more expensive, so that very well may have protected it some. Because I know if you go to Las Colinas, used to it was up to 183, and then as you went north between there and 114, it got better and better and better. You crossed 114. Now they're the wall, right? It's all the way up to Las Colinas. So I would bet they're encircled at the lake.
They are, and that's where my last home in Texas was. And then I'm just going to use it just to back up what JJ said. So at the time, JJ, we're going back 2015 when I sold that place. And I would go to the local grocery to get lean ground beef, like 95.5, 96.4, whatever the number was, 93.7. And these aren't the exact numbers. I'm just going off the top of my head, but it was somewhere around $8.99 a pound, which was a whole lot more than what it had been here in Florida. I've been bouncing back and forth between these two areas for years. I could go, Randy will tell you, I could go 12 blocks away to the east where you get into some pretty rough areas of Arlington, and it was almost half that price. It was like $4.99 a pound at the grocery stores there. And it was all demographic related pricing. And absolutely, they're looking at the big picture, right?
Yeah.
And they should you see, like, I think it's Walmart is going to be the first one. They're coming up with the digital price tags so they can change it to your demographic right there in the store. That's what they're going.
So yeah, this is hitting the news right now. We've actually mentioned it before. So, and for those who don't know, I come from big tech, but anyway, in the early 1990s, IBM actually patented that idea. So I walk down the aisle and there's a product and the price is whatever. Maybe it's because I've bought it before. Maybe it's because I haven't bought it. They're trying to entice me to buy it. Then somebody else comes behind me who has different demographics and the price changes on the display in real time. So Walmart's starting to roll this out now. And so we've gone from, pricing by zip code to pricing by demographic. And you're only going to see that get worse and worse. But that idea has been around a long time. That was an IBM idea. But anyway, I'll reel us back in here and get us back on track here. So Randy, specific to these attacks that we've seen from these ISIS-inspired, lone wolves, what's the threshold when, the normal person has to kind of clue in that these aren't scattered incidents and these are connected threats that need a stronger response? Because I think the majority of Americans still think these are random pockets of violence, and they're not.
Well, I think that I know, you're absolutely right. And it is, we become, as it says in the Bible, we become hard-headed and stiff-necked people. That's a fact, as JJ was mentioning earlier, and I alluded to in the beginning. But it's because I think it's going to have to be a major event, like a September 11th or bigger, to actually wake people up. These little ones that come and go a little, and they're over here, because again, when one happens, it's in that one spot. The rest of the 95% of the country, 95% to 99%, isn't really directly affected yet by it. And when I think that we see something that stops the day, that turns into one of those, when forever thereafter, you can say, just like everybody knows where they were. Any adult that was alive on September 11th knows exactly where they were when it happened. Same thing with several events, Pearl Harbor, JFK getting assassinated. Those things are what draw the crowds. And I think we've got so apathetic to it that it's going to take a real black eye, maybe even bloody the whole face.
So let me ask you this, and I see, check it out here. Agent 00711 is good to see your avatar, Khalid.
Yeah, finally free.
So actually, let me ask you this question, Khalid, then I'm coming to you, JJ. And I'm sorry to, push you right into this right away, Khalid, but what are the main indicators that people like you, intelligence analysts, watch to determine if a terror threat is getting better or worse? Like, what are the KPIs, the key performance indicators that you're tracking? Is it just the overall number? Is it the frequency? Is it the type of attack? Is it the geographic location? Is it how many plots you've disrupted? Is it all of the above, or am I missing stuff?
Well, it starts off with chatter. I mean, the first thing we're looking at is when does the chatter start, and how fast does it build up? Because when the chatter starts, that's when a discussion is starting to build about a terror attack. So when it builds up, that the attack has been planned out, and then everything goes quiet. I mean, dead quiet. There's no conversation anywhere on any of the Jihadi channels. The second thing you watch when you're looking at when a terror attack is going to happen is what type of surveillance has been done in the past 5 to 6 months. Areas that have been surveilled in the past 6 months, those are on the attack list. For example, like we did a raid in Afghanistan, and we found a map of Norfolk, Virginia, where they'd laid out targets inside of Norfolk of what they were going to hit. We're still going through all the data that we've gotten and all the intelligence material we've got, because we know there's dates in there as well. So we're looking at stuff like that. Third thing you're looking at is how many terror plots have been disrupted. Because every time there's a big attack coming, there will be little attacks to test out whether they're able to carry out the attack or not. Kash Patel the other day said to a Senate subcommittee that the FBI last year had disrupted 479 terror attack attempts in the United States. I don't know where he came up with that number from, because it's nowhere close to that. And we've heard nothing like that anywhere in the media, and nothing on the intelligence side has said there have been that many attempts. There's a lot of things you need to watch. Geographic locations are really important. Any area that has any kind of unrest towards Muslims, and specifically to Islamists, not the Muslims as a religion, but the radicals that are operating there, they are looking for opportunities to take advantage of any kind of civil unrest that's going on in an area. So when you see civil unrest happening in Europe, you start looking for a terror attack to happen inside of there. You start seeing civil unrest happening in the US, you start thinking there's going to be a terror attack in there. Those are the factors we're looking at. The biggest thing we're looking at, the largest thing that sets us off is the movement of weaponry, the movement of explosives. When these things are moved, then all of a sudden you start going, okay, something's about to happen. These are the 5-6 KPIs that we watch on our side when we're watching a terror attack that's building up about to happen.
That's awesome, Cleve. Great answer. I'm glad you joined us. Fantastic. JJ, from an operational perspective, your operational perspective and experience, what does an escalating threat pattern look like in its early stages? So I'm not saying terrorist attacks. I'm saying that when you were dealing with people at the border, did you have like waves where, you know, it's up and down and you could feel it coming because certain things, indicators were happening and you're going, holy shit, bar the door, Katie?
Yeah, we used to see this all the time. We used to see the violence began to peak, and then there was a shooting, and then it would just go dead quiet.
Oh,
and
wow.
then it would slowly rise up again, and there would be fights like galore, gang members, fights on the border, failure to yields, ramming vehicles, and then all of a sudden there'd be a shooting. We'd kill one of them, and then it would go silent, and then we just go through this cycle. And I believe as a nation, we're going through that cycle where we are now in that absolute fever pitch, ramped up violence where it's hyper. I mean, you have quote children, right? Teenagers ransacking metropolitan cities almost every single weekend. We're seeing violence that we've never seen before. I'm seeing violence like I've never seen before back in law enforcement that I didn't know it didn't exist 5 years ago. It just didn't at this level every single day, guys. The violence and the level of crime, and then you gotta understand, we're not fighting just the bad guys. We're fighting corrupt and incompetent judges that continue to allow these people out into the street. So if you have Mohammed from Sudan and Afghanistan, and they've changed their name, given new identity, Joe Smith, we don't even know who these people are. We gave, just so your audience understand, the people that came through the border, especially the Afghanis, do you know that we were giving them completely brand new names because they couldn't spell their name? So we would give them a John Smith and a new birth date. So we created complete identification, new ID for people that came from terrorist nations.
I did know that. Just to be clear, because I want to make sure we're focusing on the right person. Was that Muhammad, or was it Muhammad?
I think it encompasses all of them. I mean, did you see Bill Malugin just came out and said they caught 4 people from crossing the border in Canada, and all of them were named Muhammad. And they're from UK.
We brought that up last night. So they said 4 British nationals captured crossing from Canada into America, and every last one of them is, a jihadi from the Middle East. And I was like, fuck, these are British nationals. These aren't British nationals. Stop trying to whitewash this shit, One more quick question before I move on to Randy here. This is a loaded question. It's my job to make your blood pressure go up on Fridays. From a border and vetting perspective, JJ, how has the inflow of individuals with jihadi ties affected the current threat level?
Oh, it's changed it. I mean, you had Christopher Wray, I think it was 2023 and a half, maybe 2024. He's sitting next to Alejandro Mayorkas, who's a traitor and should be in prison.
100%.
And they asked Christopher Wray, what is the threat level for terrorism? And he literally shrugged his shoulders. And he was like, I have no idea. You're going to have to ask this man. And pointed at him. He was in a national sheriff's convention 2023 going in 2024, and he said in front of 3,000 sheriffs, right now we have more red flags going off, red lights going off than before 9/11, and we do not know where they all are. So when you ask what's the totality, in 4 years 30 million people came in. I want your audience to try to understand what 30 million people is just in 4 years. And if you give me 60 seconds, I'll tell you, give you an idea, just so you have an idea of what I'm talking about, because the numbers are so grand that you can't wrap your brain around it. So I live here in the Midwest. And so we have the Kansas City Chiefs. Arrowhead Stadium holds 70,000 people. I'm not talking about the 18 million people that cross the border undetected and absconded. We have no idea who they are. I'm just talking about the numbers of people that were arrested by the United States Border Patrol and then released. 12 million. 12 million. So if you take Arrowhead Stadium, and I packed Arrowhead Stadium, 70,000 people, And inside the 70,000 people, 60 to 70% were single adult military-aged men from the continent of Africa, Middle East, Haiti, and Venezuela. Okay? And Latin America. All areas of hotbeds. On top of that, on the 7th day, I released every single person out of that stadium. So if you've ever been to a football stadium and seen 70,000 people disperse, it's massive humanity. But I did that not once. I did that every 7 days for 4 years straight. 4 years straight, I dumped out football stadiums filled with jihadis, rapists, murderers, gang members, PLA soldiers. That's the threat that we are living in today, and it is about to explode. I'm telling you.
I got to compliment you, by the way. Even when you get mad, the bro talks, it's saving your face from getting.
I take it as an absolute compliment that I look this natural, and you guys think that it's I've had work done. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. The reason Khalid doesn't have his camera on is because he took too much bro talks. His face up. He looks like those puppets where just their mouth moves now. The rest of his is frozen. He's waiting for the bro talks to wear off, and he'll come back on camera again.
You guys, I come on Friday for abuse, just for abuse,
and we deliver every time. I do want to throw one comment in that I'm going to Randy and all of the, bizarre stuff that you've mentioned. No ifs, ands, or buts. The CIA playbook to run a color revolution is being played against us, and has for at least the past 15 years, ever since Obama got, installed the first time. So, and if you study the CIA color revolution playbook, it's line for line, lines up with the shit that they've done.
Yep.
So, Randy, question for you. Confirmation bias, where you're biased towards something, so you see something that jives with it, and that bias just continues to build itself, like you end up very myopic with tunnel vision sort of thing. How do guys like us who are pissed at this stuff happening, how do we avoid confirmation bias, deciding whether or not these incidents are a real pattern versus just random noise? Because as far as I'm concerned, just like Khalid and you and JJ said, we're well down the road of this now.
Well, I say you continue to do your due diligence, right? When you no longer do due diligence and you just assume, yep, that's that, and you never really looked into it to make sure, then I would think that maybe you're getting a bit biased. But until then, and it's what we were taught, and especially you always, do your homework. Do your homework.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? So, JJ, you get final, or not JJ, pardon me, Khalid. See, the bro talks got me all messed up. Let's get an updated perspective from you, Khalid. Are we seeing a pattern now that you think could lead to a larger coordinated attack? Or is it more likely to stay smaller scale violence on a, greater frequency?
Well, right now the U.S. is the easiest way for me to put it is right now the U.S. needs to worry more about sleeper cells and lone wolf attacks, because that's the trigger that's going to set off the big coordinated attack. Sleeper cell attacks will be something that is a test of whether the intelligence that's been gathered by the jihadis is actually right or wrong. The lone wolf attacks is the embodiment of everything that's been done online in terms of radicalizing people. When these two things start to happen, this is why when the drones were flying over military bases, my alarm bells started going off, because a drone flying over a military base and no one shooting it down is automatically a threat. It's a threat vector for us. Because in the Middle East and South Asia, whenever a drone flies over any kind of a target, it's either doing ISR or it's preparing for a kamikaze attack. It's one of the two. There is no, I'm just floating around and I'm just someplace I shouldn't be. That drone is there for a reason. The problem that we're seeing right now, Chris, is that we've got such a meld of different threat indicators in the US, from far left to radicals to the jihadis to sleeper cells to people who are just pissed off about what's happening in the US right now, or people that are pissed off what's happening in the world right now, there are so many threat vectors that every time I sit down and read an intelligence report on what's happening in the US, I scratch my head and go, how the hell am I supposed to figure out which threat vector I'm supposed to watch? Because I'll give you an example this way. 2 years ago, when we looked at threat vectors, the US was someplace around 20-30% at that point. Right now, we are floating around 80-90%, and it's across the board with every group, 80-90%. That means we are literally inside of a pressure cooker. The pressure has built up to the point where there's going to be an explosion. What that explosion is, we still can't put our finger on, because there are too many actors in the game. There are too many non-state actors in the game that are armed, ready, willing, and able to carry out an attack. And how they carry out the attack, we don't know.
All right, Doug, appreciate that. Clede, we've got a limited amount of time with JJ, so I want to hear your thoughts on what Khalid just said, JJ, and I want to say thank you to Sam for the generous tip. And maybe JJ, actually, you know what? Instead of adding on to Khalid, we'll do this. Sam asks, I assume there's no chance of U.S. surviving as we know it. That one's actually in your wheelhouse, JJ. Pick that ball up and run with that one.
I get accused, and people like me get accused of, oh, you're black pilling and you don't have any hope, and you don't. No, I don't believe in black pilling. I believe in just speaking. When you lay it all out and you say what's happening out loud, and then you start to critically think and ask yourself, how does this play out? What are the ramifications? Like, if this continues to happen, this will, and then maybe this can. I look at it as we're living in the end of the United States as we know it, sans a violent revolution where we purge all the people out of our country. Listen, we're looking at a country. This is not about that you're a racist or you're a xenophobe. All this is I'm showing you, I'm giving you an equation, and I'm telling you, here's the data. Now plug the data into the equation. This is whatever the output is, that is the output. So when you look at in the last 15 years, we just went down 20 percentage points in white population in America. No nation in the history of the world has lost that percentage of population and been okay. It just doesn't happen. It's not. So by 2045, the white population is going to be the minority by demographers. New demographers are coming out and saying, no, unfortunately, that number is going to be at 2035 in 9 years. And you say, well, why is that bad? Well, go ask the Japanese if we all the white people moved to Japan and changed their culture, changed their religious beliefs, changed the way they went to school, changed the way they did wore clothes and the violence we brought or the lack thereof, the food we brought. What do you think they would do? They would revolt. They would say, no, this is Japan. I want Japan to be for Japanese people. Same thing with Pakistanis, should be for Pakistanis, and on and on and on and on. Why are we the only nation combined with other white European nations that we're now being be told to be replaced, and we're all supposed to cheerlead for it? We're all supposed to say, yeah, this is a good thing. It's not a good thing. We're bringing in third worlders into our country, and we are now suffering because of it. But we also are committing suicide. The people that run our country are killing us. Just like Miss Salazar from the Miami area, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, and Congresswoman from Florida is passing the Dignidad Act. She didn't even have the decency to name the amnesty bill in English. She changed it to a Spanish word. That's how much they hate us.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched on this before. In 1965, LBJ's Immigration Nationality Act, 33% of the global population was Caucasian. That number today is 8%. And I mentioned a really scary number last night with Randy and Jeff. Depending on whose number you want to believe, 20 years old and younger in the state of Texas, only 20 to 29% are Caucasians. One generation from being wiped out in the state of Texas.
And it will be less than one generation because we just came out with the CDC came out with the new birth rates, and we are at 1.6, meaning we're in a death spiral. We're not even a replacement level. Blacks are actually dying. They're worse than 1.6. They are a dying race within America because of all the abortions. So you are seeing a demographic replacement happening in real time in America. And I don't believe it's a generation. I believe it's sooner. When you look at the UN rates of birth, they are the people we're bringing in, and I wrote this in my book and detailed it. They are up to 5 times the birth rates of American women. It's a bad math problem, and we lose.
Well, you know what the math is behind it, right? When we pay the vast majority of the taxes in the country, which are way over the top compared to what it should be, we're paying for them to have kids and be on welfare and social assistance and this grant and that grant. And those of us who work our asses off end up paying for it. So that's the economic disparity, meaning that if we're paying that kind of a tax burden, how the hell can we afford to have our own kids and pay for our own kids when we're paying for everybody else? You know, these women who have, 7 or 8 kids from 7 or 8 different men. I mean, and the men aren't paying a penny, and it falls on us.
But we're seeing that. Yeah, we're seeing that in Dearborn, Michigan, etc., in Texas, and they're taking over. The jihadists are actually, they've said it out loud. We're going to use the U.S. Constitution against them, and we're going to do it. There's going to come a time. I don't know what your guys' feeling is, and I don't know when this time is. Just like Khalid saying, I know that there's going to be a terrorist attack, but I don't know when. I believe we're going to have a time in history where we're going to have a violent revolution here in America. And it's going to be a small group of men that are going to try to take back our country. Will they succeed? I don't know, but I know it's going to happen. History shows that this is a historical fact. This is not me hoping and praying that it happens. I'm just telling you, this is historical, and it's going to happen.
My crystal ball says the exact same thing, JJ. Couldn't agree more. So that's the end of segment 1. It's time that you have to jet, JJ.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Stick with us, everybody. Khalid and Randy and I are going to pick up the pace on the brief now. Be safe. Don't overdo it on the bro talks. Have a great week.
Oh, I love you guys. Have a good week.
We love you too, brother.
All right.
See you, JJ.
See you later, Khalid. Bye-bye.
All right. So we're going to slide into segment number 2. A couple quick announcements for Guardians. Tomorrow night, we're doing a Preparing Your Home for CBR and Environmental Disasters, a webinar on this tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern for all of the Guardians. Numa Chan, she can share her real name with you if she wants tomorrow night. Her credentials are impeccable. She's CBRN-E, medical defense, clinical, public health, infectious diseases and parasitology, environmental microbiology, medical expeditionary planning, operations intelligence, and that goes on and on. She's a preeminent subject matter expert in CBRN. So if you're a Guardian, check it out in our Element server. The links will be there to get in on that webinar, and it's at 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. The other thing for Guardians this weekend is the 2026 SHTF Comms series. Part 1 was released a few weeks ago for Guardians. A week later, it was available for the public. This Sunday, Part 2 is available. It's a lot bigger and more in depth. So Guardians, y'all will get that Sunday morning. The public won't get it for another week. And we'll be shooting Part 3 here shortly. So segment number 2, the escalation indicators intelligence professionals actually track. The 4 escalation indicators that trained analysts watch are geographic clustering, target type convergence, timeline compression, and pipeline pressure. When disrupted plots increase while attacks also increase, the pipeline is expanding faster than law enforcement can close it. All 4 indicators are currently active simultaneously in the United States. The incidents from December 2025 through April 2026 represent a cluster, a compression, a target convergence, and confirmed pipeline pressure happening at the same time. The recidivism dimension adds a 5th indicator specific to this period. and I'm referring specifically to the convicted ISIS material support offender released in December 2024, was back executing on, an attack, 15 months later. And the system that released him is the same system that's being counted on to detect the next one. And we spoke about this last night. Like 99% of these so-called plots that are disrupted are because somebody gave the FBI a tip, not because the FBI ferreted out on their own. So knowing these 4 escalation indicators is useful, but having them delivered to you in real time as they develop is what actually lets you stay ahead of the threat. And SDN Guardians gives you that live operational intelligence through our SDN's SHTF alert system, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. And you can get access now at survivaldispatch.news. So coming back to you, Randy, walk me through what the picture looks like, the big picture looks like when it's obvious to anybody who's paying attention that the threat picture has moved from elevated to imminent. In other words, it's fixing to happen. What does that look like? What are the pieces that you would be looking at and going, holy shit, we're on the cusp of this thing breaking loose?
Well, if we go to recent history, let's just go back to 2019, right? And leading up to that election, even the summer of love and all that stuff. The very first thing that happened, of course, there was already tension in the air, as we know. There was already tension in the air, but, there's always that one event. And, that one was George Floyd and Chavez, right? And, I don't know, I wish I knew what the metric was for these guys, whoever it was, to say, okay, this is the event, go. But we don't know that, right? But what we can say is the moment that happened, like the next day, as I've mentioned many times on this show, and we all know it's history, it happened. The next day, 28 states erupted into protest, peaceful protest, but they were really riots. I would definitely say if we start seeing more peaceful protests that look like riots, that's one of those indicators that something's about to happen, because we watched that build up all that summer. And, next thing you know, main streets are being burned down. People's property was being burned down. Everything, and some of those businesses were being stolen, including Targets. And what we even saw, I wonder if it was a Wendy's or something, but even a fast food restaurant. So I would say, as you see those types of things elevate and violence in the community, maybe not yours, but anywhere in the United States where it starts building up, we've seen a little bit of that, but it doesn't seem to got the traction. So I think that they're still looking for one more event or whatever it is to kick off. And as Khalid mentioned, I think that, and I've said all along, that there's going to be elements that piggyback off this thing. So it won't be just the people that started it, but there's going to be several elements that piggyback off that, which is which will make these things very bad. But I would say just, looking for things in the community where, you see more fights, more shit, kind of like what we're seeing now. So I would just assume that we're probably getting pretty close to whatever said event's going to be that actually kicks it off, where there will be no doubt, and we won't have to have this show to talk about what might be happening.
I'm eating some Wasatch Way. Go ahead and eat it. My crack addiction's kicking in. Don't judge me. So, Khalid, the Sufan Center flagged faster radicalization to attack timelines as a major risk, and we've discussed it multiple times. But what's causing that speed up, Khalid? What's causing the speed up, and how does it affect our ability to stop attacks in time?
Well, the biggest factor that's causing the radicalization to speed up is the online. The level of integration and implementation that jihadis have been able to achieve with online media it has changed the entire model of what terrorism looks like. Um, for a lot of people, you're not going to understand where we're coming from on this because you haven't seen how this thing builds up so quickly. But I'll give it to you in a very simple way. You've got this kid who's 18, 19 years old. He's living a normal life and he's kind of happy and he has a few problems. He gets involved with a chat and it's just a normal chat window. He's talking and people are complaining about things going on around them and, mistakes and problems that they're having. And he starts to bitch and complain about what's going on. In the process of him bitching and complaining, an ISIS recruiter, a virtual handler, picks him off, sends off a private message and says, hey, listen, you shouldn't just talk about it. There's something you can do about it if you're interested. And a conversation starts. That conversation, in the span of about 2 weeks, goes from I'm pissed off about something very small to I want to attack a country. I want to attack my city because it's the only way I see to get my voice across to people. When you are working from that point of view, law enforcement doesn't even forget law enforcement. The CIA is not even watching this. MI6 is not even watching this because they are not familiar with what's going on. Number two, the thing that radicalization has been able to do is neuro-linguistic programming, where they have changed the language of the jihadi. Instead of using suicide bomber or attack or this, they have changed it into a common, simple English lexicon. I'll give you another example. We were in a chat group, and we've detailed this in our assessment. Now the phrase cupcake means explosives. So when jihadis are talking and they say, have you secured the cupcake? Have you picked up the cupcake from the bakery? They're actually talking about a delivery of explosives to someone. The problem we've got right now is that the intelligence services around the world are not listening and they're not paying attention to what's going on. So when you're not paying attention, you've created a vacuum. And in that vacuum, all of a sudden, people are being radicalized much faster. And you're still not paying attention. And then on top of that, you're trusting terrorists to tell you whether people are terrorists or not. And you're going to lose at that game.
Yeah, don't judge me, Cleet. I'm killing some Wasatch Wagyu here.
No, I wish I had some, man. I mean, you guys talk so great about it. I wish I had some to try out.
You couldn't handle it, brother. You couldn't handle it. Well, you wouldn't be able to get enough supply, so you would be in the DTs and stuff. Because as soon as you have it, you'd be hooked. That's the way it is.
It's kind of like crack.
Yeah. I listen to I hear Chris and Mike Glover talking about it. I'm going, man, this is something I've got to try.
You have to come home to America to try it.
That's right.
So, Randy, the Old Dominion University shooter, as you know, was put in prison. He got like an 11-year sentence for providing material support to ISIS. He served 8 years. No idea why they let him out. And 15 months later, he killed the lieutenant colonel ROTC instructor. What is the chance of taking any of these nut cases and reforming them, in your opinion?
Well, come on, man. Certainly the ones that now they have emboldened and made entitled, if you've been let out 35, 40 times, and some of these we've seen in the last few years, it's absolutely ridiculous. But it just lends to kind of what JJ was saying and Khalid both. JJ is right. All this is strategic and planned out, including this stuff. Them throwing soft on crime, there's a reason for that, because they need to beat us down. They need to replace us here. You know what I'm saying? And not just as in voters, as society, because if they have all the people we talked about, certainly the third world countries that, we'll say are intelligence challenged, that's an easy population to move around and boss around and sway. They'll do whatever. Us that critical think and ask questions and have problems with some of this and want our freedoms and rights and want the country to stay the way it is are the problem. And so all our agencies and all these things in the system that are in place that are supposed to protect us, it's not that they don't know or they're not listening. Oh, that is true. They're not, but it's intentional. It's just like Khalid said in the beginning when we started all this, that they've got intelligence, that our intelligence agency said they're not going to stop them. They won't get in their way and they'll look the other way. So that is called intentionally doing that. And so whatever cooks up and happens is still on them. Just because they didn't know about it or didn't know the lingo, that was intentional. And again, what it does is it unravels this entire thing. We'll watch our whole constitutional republic unravel in a split second because it's been slowly building for a long time. And now we'll see the last of it go in like sand through the hourglass.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. Khalid, this number's been floated, NCTC put it out there when Joe Kent was in front of Congress. 18,000 known or suspected terrorist-tied individuals. Number one, what's the real number, in your opinion, or at least the range of real numbers? And number two, what does that do to the FBI's ability to monitor these threats?
Well, the number of jihadis that have infiltrated and invaded the U.S., the number we're at right now is somewhere around 100,000. Those are military-age males, 20 to 35, that have entered the U.S. either legally or illegally, using fake passports, using the border weaknesses. So our number right now is around 100,000, and that we're saying that 100,000 number is there's a error ratio of around 20% on that we could be wrong by 20%. That's problem number one. Problem number two is the mass level of local domestic radicalization that's happening that we can't even track. That's also in the tens of thousands. And the problem we're seeing right now is that the FBI is not an investigative organization. They know how to act after the shit hits the fan. They don't know how to act before it happens. And I mean, I don't know how many times I have pointed out Rochester, New York being a entry point for jihadis. From all of our intelligence, from every single police officer we've spoken to in the state of New York, not one FBI officer, not one FBI agent has shown up in Rochester to figure out whether this is going on or not. But when the terror attack happens, they're all going to go, oh, well, it was on our radar. Our problem is that you're still using a playbook that existed back in the 80s and 90s. You're not even using a playbook that existed in the 2000s. Forget 2025. When you're not working at the speed the terrorists are working, you are behind the game. And terrorists are increasing their ability to infiltrate and radicalize at light speed. Just 2 years ago, it would take 2 years for someone to be radicalized. We're now at 45 days. And that's like an extended number. In 2 weeks, Chris, someone can be radicalized to carry out an attack. How much smaller is that window going to become before the intelligence services and the investigative teams in the U.S. start going, wait a minute, we need to figure out how this is happening, where it's happening?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're behind the eight ball on that. So, Randy, kind of a loaded question. If you combine the releases of convicted offenders, especially from Gitmo, under the Biden installation, there's all kinds of ISIS and Al-Qaeda terrorists that they just let go. And they were all smiley, happy, and they got back to the Middle East and Europe and were bragging about how they're going to come back here and attack us. So you've got these hardened jihadi terrorists that we had in custody. We let them go. You've got all of these unvetted entries that came across the southern border and northern border as well. You have this faster radicalization process. Is there a snowball's chance in hell of the feds interdicting this in any meaningful way? or are they going to be caught with their pants down around their ankles?
Well, you know what I think? They're going to jump on top of it. So I think they're just waiting for it to happen. I don't think they're missing it, and or they may not be looking. I just think they're not doing their job. That is my personal opinion. And you know, we just look at their past history over the last couple of years. It's pretty sad, you know, including the attempted assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania. If we go through all of that and look at what the FBI has done and haven't done, I mean, I'm not even sure what they do anymore. And, you know, it certainly isn't fight crime.
Well, I think their pants are going to be around their ankles. I don't think they stand a snowball's chance in hell of.
Oh no, I apologize. I didn't finish that up. No, I think if that was going to happen, Chris, we would be seeing it in motion right now. We would have seen a more robust getting them out program, deportations, but not just the ones that they did. And from what we could see in going after Latinos, they would have been going after these jihadis and all these people that come in wherever they are and go find them, because as they turned over more, they would turn over more and more and more and more. But we haven't done any of that. And of course, we don't see any arrests going to anybody that holds accountability. And, you know, you talked about, you know, the ones we let out. Well, Obama pretty much closed it, didn't he, at one point? And we think about, you know, he certainly gave away 5 very important and very deadly people for Bergdahl. So I don't know. I think we probably did some before that, but ever since then, we let a bunch go, didn't we? So
I think we basically let all of them
go
for that.
So
matter.
Where do you think they went? I mean, these people have a beef, and just like what Khalid was talking about, when they're surfing through these games, you know, who are they looking for? It's the same thing I told you all along. That's what's in the playbook, and it's what everybody does because it is guaranteed. You go find the unhappy people because they're already telling people they're unhappy, and they are already primed and ready to do something about it. And then, just as Khalid mentioned, you go to them and you give them something that they can be a part of that's bigger than themselves, that's going to have some kind of great outcome at the end. And they are more than willing to pick up a weapon and go die for that cause. And we manipulate that every day around the world. And now our enemies also do, right here in our own country.
100%. Khalid, you get last kick at the can here, segment number 2. So safe to say all of the escalation indicators are active right now. And so taking that into consideration based on, you know, what Randy's had to say, I've had to say, what you've had to say, and all the escalation indicators being lit up right now, same question. What are the chances of law enforcement interdicting this? I have less than zero faith that they can do it.
Well, I'm in the minus category when it comes to law enforcement. I mean, Chris, I just spent 2 weeks kicking in doors, and when you're actually fighting a terror threat, you don't sit on TV and give press conferences. You are out in the field and you're fighting an enemy that you know exists. I don't see that happening in the U.S. because law enforcement, and part of that is because the FBI has got their head so far up their ass that they don't even know what they're doing anymore. To put it really simply, I'm going to pick up from what Randy said, that, you know, they're waiting for it to happen. They're not only waiting for it to happen, they're actually facilitating it as well. Because when you're not doing your job as an investigator, when you're not rolling up a cell, and then instead of putting it on the news and saying, look, we caught this cell, put them in a room and interrogate them, figure out who else they're connected to, go through their phones, go through their laptops, see who they're communicating with, and roll up the bigger cells. But as long as you're sitting around going, okay, look, we caught this cell and we put them on TV and we've done this, nothing happens. The cell that was actually operating, the handler that was actually running that cell, goes untouched. And that means he just goes ahead and says, okay, this one's gone. Let's start working with this cell. This one's gone. Let's start working with this cell. It goes back to what I was saying, is that it's all a testing process. Kash Patel at the end of 2025 rolled up 5 people that were connected to ISIS that have disappeared. We have heard nothing about prosecution. We have heard nothing about a cell being taken down overseas. We have seen nothing happen in terms of any of those things. You had a terrorist cell in Los Angeles taken down. Nothing happened. The New Orleans attacker was in contact with an ISIS handler in Iraq. It took 8 months before the CIA figured out that he was in contact with someone in Iraq. That was after he'd been taken into custody, after he'd been thrown in jail. And when they finally started going through his communication logs, his travel logs, went, holy shit, he's actually connected to ISIS. You cannot. My problem with U.S. intelligence and my problem with global intelligence is you only come into action after the attack happens. You don't do it beforehand. And the amount of signal intelligence the NSA is collecting, if they were just to share that with the CIA alone, the number of cells you could take down would be massive. But that means the NSA has to start working within the infrastructure of the intelligence community.
Yeah, imagine that. So that's the end. Oops, I thought I minimized there. That's the end of segment number 2. We're going to roll into segment number 3. Before we do that, I want to answer this question quickly here from Scrap Iron. In a scenario, what would you do if people sent a child to your door for food and the purpose was to see what you have? So I would thank my good friend Keith Graves, who bestowed an SOP on me years ago to have charity bags ready to go. And I would say, look, here's your charity bag. And they would have no idea of what we have in stock. And I wouldn't give them a piece of our stuff that's stored away, but I would have something to, give them something to eat without giving away the farm and without giving up information. So that's what I would do in that scenario. One more, actually, probably going to make 2 more reminders, this one and one more. Guardians tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, CBRN Environmental Disasters webinar, how to prepare your household. Don't miss it if you want to get some really high caliber information. And if you're not a Guardian, go to survivaldispatch.news, sign up. It's $9.99 a month or $99.99 a year, which gets you 2 months for free. And 2 more reminders. Sunday, SHTF Comms, 2026 HTF Comms series article and video number 2 go out for Guardians, or go up for Guardians on our Substack on Sunday. It'll be a week after that before the general public gets access to them. So segment number 3, the final segment on the main topic, is would you recognize the tipping point in time? The tipping point in a domestic threat escalation cycle is not a single dramatic event. It is the moment when the pace of incidents outstrips the public's ability to process them individually, and the media stops treating each one as breaking news. Think 9/11 1.0. Think of all the supposition when the first plane hit, and then think of everybody's reaction when the second one hit. So anyway, at that point in time, normalization sets in and the attacks become background noise, which operationally, that's exactly what the enemy wants. They want to just numb all of us out to it. Practical question for every American family is not whether the government will recognize the tipping point. It's whether you will recognize it first and have already adjusted your behavior, your situational awareness, and your family's protocols before the next incident. The short-term actions every American can take right now are map your exits at every soft target, wherever you are in public, especially the ones that your family goes to frequently. Build in your mind, you can write it down as well, like I do. I get sometimes I remember, sometimes I forget. But build behavioral baselines in the environments that you're in frequently. So obviously your neighborhood at home, your work area, if you frequent, restaurants, grocery stores, or whatever, watch what's going on. Make a note of what regular behavior looks like so that abnormal behavior stands out like a sore thumb. And, we hear frequently, use the FBI tip line, Yeah, okay. You can use the FBI tip line. In my opinion, I would rather reach out to my sheriff's office, and they will take more of an interest in what's going on in your backyard than the FBI will, generally speaking. I won't go down that rabbit hole. I could go down that rabbit hole, but I won't. So anyway, most families will miss the tipping point because they have no real-time intelligence picture to measure it against. SDN Guardians gives you that live escalation view through our SDN's SHTF alert system, Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. So you can see the threat environment shifting and adjust your family's awareness and protocols or SOPs before it's too late. You can sign up at survivaldispatch.news. So with that being said, coming to you, Randy, in your view, have we already crossed into a sustained high threat environment, or are we still in a window where we might be able to lessen the worst case scenarios, the worst case outcomes? In other words, is this sustained and building momentum now, or is there still going to be some element of calm before the storm, in your opinion?
It's a good question. I think it could go either way. I couldn't make a call of certainty on which way or the other that's going to be. But I will say that, unfortunately, what you were just talking about, 99% of the population isn't going to recognize it till it goes off. We probably have a few people on this show, and there's a few others out there that will notice this stuff coming on. But for the most part, it's going to catch a lot of people blindsided. And as we already know, whether it be law enforcement, local law enforcement, that is, and a lot of sheriffs, or all these people that are on here talk about their family members, and mine are the same way. Nobody really wants to hear about it. I don't know if they don't think that it's coming, but I think it goes back to the herd mentality that I talk about all the time. The 85% want to keep them blinders on and just moving forward in hopes that it's going to work out. I think that, I think that we're close to that threshold because of its building momentum. And at one point we did have a quiet period and nothing real big happened after that. So I think that, that somebody knows what the timeline is. Unfortunately, it's not us. I have no doubt that there are folks out there and people that are running this show that know exactly what's going to happen, and we just are waiting for it. And I think that, I think we've already passed the quiet part, because I know Khalid's talked about many times that, and we know for certain all the testing and all the little probing has already been done. So now it's just waiting for go. And, the quiet part we're probably in now, because nothing major has happened. There's been a bunch of little things, but we're still waiting for that one that goes boom. And, I guarantee you it's going to, because as we talked about and what people have to realize, and when we talk about earlier, whether it was you or Khalid, about what the intelligence agency should or shouldn't be doing, and hey, as we all know, they are part of it. The bankers and the intelligence agencies of the community are the ones that are putting this on. So, they're not going to stop it, and we're all just going to wait till it happens. I would assume we're in the quiet part now, and something within a short period. If something doesn't happen over the rest of this year, then I don't know. I would start to lean back the other way, but I think we got to get past these midterms to know for sure. If something doesn't happen. Now, something could happen before that, and we won't be waiting for the midterms. As these elections matter, this will probably be one of the biggest defining moments for midterms, where most people just skip out. But this is a big deal right now and point in time. So I think that's a looming date that's out there. And then if somehow we're able to save the vote and the Democrats don't take over everything in the seats and in the houses, then I think we might see something right after, because at that point they may hit desperation mode and they've tried everything else. You're on mute.
Damn it. This Amazon guy, I swear to God, he's got to come when I'm on my podcast every single freaking night. Pisses me off.
He's got to be watching the podcast, Chris. He's got to be watching the podcast and waiting, going, wait a minute, when the topic gets hot, that's when I ring the bell.
I'm with Khalid.
It's maddening. The damn Jeff MD sending Amazon shit to me. I like John Fernandez's comment because I agree with it. You can feel the spiritual darkness surrounding our country. You absolutely can if you're paying attention.
More than I've ever felt in my lifetime by quite a margin.
Yeah, 100%. Khalid, what's the single most important thing an average American family can do right now to improve their chances of surviving a soft target attack?
Oh, wow. The single thing that you can do as a family is prepare. Stop thinking from the complacency point of view that someone's going to save you, someone's going to protect you. You have to protect yourselves because, again, if you look at everything that's going on in the U.S. right now, law enforcement is failing, the government is failing. It's across the board. I mean, it's like Randy just said, this is something that the judges, the police, they're all helping these people cause these disruptions in the U.S. If you're believing that law enforcement is going to protect you, you're going to be one of the first ones that's hit in the attack. You have got to be working from the mentality that we work from here, that every time I walk out of the house, I am armed. I am thinking, everybody is a threat. And I spent literally, Chris, I spend the entire day looking at people from top to bottom, trying to figure out whether they're a threat or not. And I've said this numerous times on the broadcast. You'll never see me pull out a mobile phone when I'm outside. You'll never see my hands full when I'm outside, because I am working for the mentality that there is a threat, and that threat exists in real time at 100% level right now. The U.S. right now is between an 80 and 90% threat level right now. The pressure has built to that point. Anyone who thinks that it's lower than that and it's going to let up, when you look at world events that are happening, from Syria and Afghanistan, with the ISIS terrorists being released from the Syrian prisons, you are talking 20,000 terrorists that have British passports, European passports, that are able to travel anywhere in the world they want to without being branded as a terrorist. The world is not cooperating with you right now. And the U.S. is a huge target.
Well, the UN just decided today that they're going to isolate the United States, and good luck with that. We pull our fund, UN, they're gone. They're done.
That's right. That's all I said. Hey, then go ahead and remove all the money, because nobody else is pitching into that either.
And
I don't understand why you just kick them out. I mean, just kick them out of New York and say, well, you go to Brussels, man. Fuck off.
Bye-bye.
But we need to, because you know who the head of the UN Security Council is right now, right? Somalia. I'm not joking. Go look it up.
How?
Because we live in fucking bizarro world. That's how. Take the black pill. We live in a simulation. Anyway, and there's more to it than just that. The Iranian government today was chosen to head up some sort of, initiative, whatever. I read, I was like, you got to be fucking kidding.
What government? Has anybody left? I mean, who they?
That's a really good point.
I'm sorry.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Who's actually left to be part of the government?
They got Ahmed left. I'd kill you. That's who's going to be. Randy, any words of advice for parishioners as far as where their headspace should be at when they're at church, whether or not they have a church security team? What's advice for the head of the family and the members of the family when they're going to church these days?
I'm not going to lie, man. You be pack some heat, go learn, go practice, do some drills with your family and kids, make it fun, but make it hard, because people rise to the occasion, and they we like to have a high bar, a high standard, and we will find a way to meet it. And that's what I would say, man, because the reality is, God never asked you just to let them walk in and shoot you dead in your own church. He didn't say turn the cheek to that degree. So that's what I would, that would be my advice. And pay attention to the pastor, because if you're in a good church, what he's saying is important. But I would also have my head on a little bit of a swivel too. Just might want to keep looking around. That might be a bit odd in church, but the fact is, in this day and time, it's probably not a bad idea.
Obviously, not everybody can do this, but my process has been the same forever and a day, Randy. If I'm in public, doesn't matter where I'm in public, I can see the entrances and exits. I sit where I can watch the main entrance and exit, whether it's a restaurant, church, whatever the case may be. So that's something that people can do. Khalid, since you've been through this stuff, Khalid, attacks, many attacks. So if you have a major attack and it hits a bunch of targets at once, whether it's a CCTA, complex coordinated terrorist attack, or it's just a bunch of these lone wolves are all activated at the same point in time, which looks like there's a high probability of that. What's the first 72 hours look like for a family that's prepared versus a family that's not prepared?
Well, the family that's not prepared, I mean, they're done. It's game over. They're going to be taken out immediately. The family that is prepared, there's two things that are going to happen for a prepared family. Either you're going to exfil from the location where the attack vectors are high and move to some place where you're at least secure for yourselves. That could be a small town. It could be another major metropolitan city. It could be another segment of the metropolitan city that you live in right now. But a prepared family understands that they have to be moving from the point of view of the attack is going to happen. The unprepared family is the absolute stupidest family that you'll find, is because they're more worried about shopping and food and hanging out with people, and they're not looking around. The situational awareness doesn't exist in them. And we see it here in Pakistan a lot, dude. I mean, a lot of people I sit down and talk to, when I start talking about terrorism, their eyes glaze over. They just look at me like, what are you talking about? I'm going, do you not watch the news? Do you not know what's going on? It's on TV all the time. Attack happened here, attack happened here, attack happened here. Oh, it can never happen to us. We hear that here in Pakistan, Chris. It will not happen to us. And I look at them and I go, you know what? You're the first one dead. And I don't want you to call me when the attack happens.
Sorry. That's just too freaking funny. Sorry. Carry on. That made me laugh.
But the thing is, Chris, I mean, we have, since 2007, Pakistan has not seen peace. We have had attacks after attacks after attacks after attacks after attacks. We have carried out major military operations where we've gotten a lull of some kind, but the attacks have not stopped. And the problem that you get is when you have people that are living in that dream world of nothing is going to happen, they are the people you stay the fuck away from, because they're the ones that are going to end up costing you your life, because their complacency ends up being a liability for you.
Yep. Amen to that, Khalid. Randy, it's that time of the night again. You want to do the countdown for me? 3, 2, 1. It's time for the Carnival Practical Payoff. These are skills, items, and mindset shifts relative to tonight's topic that can help you all as far as being prepared for this type of calamity is concerned. Randy, I'll go to you first. Your choice, skill, item, or mindset shift.
Well, I'm going to go with an item, and I know we've said many times, but you need to have yourself some sort of self-defense, whether it be one, that does what we do, or the other one. You need to have something on you, and you need to be proficient with it. That's just a fact in today's time. It's unfortunate that that's where we are, but you can be a statistic, or you can survive to live to survive another day. So I'm going to go with the weapon.
Okay. Khalid, skill, item, mindset shift.
Well, I've said this before. The number one skill you need to people need to learn is what we call counterintelligence. Being able to use reflective surfaces, being able to understand when you are being tailed by somebody. you get the hairs on the back of your neck will stand up when someone's following you. That's a natural reaction, because someone's eyes are on you, someone's following you. Trust that feeling. Stop being, well, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing. That's how people end up being stabbed. That's how people end up being shot. That's how people end up being robbed. And God forbid, that's how you end up on the X string of terror attack.
Yeah, true story. So I would say that probably the biggest mindset shift for people in America, and I know our audience is pretty exceptional already, but stop waiting until it feels dangerous to start acting. You either, fail to plan or you plan to fail. So get your head right now, be prepared, do all the things that we mention frequently on our podcast. Just get mentally past the point that, oh, that shit only happens over there. That terrorist attack doesn't mean anything because it was just one guy who drove his truck through a crowd. It doesn't affect me here. It's all connected. And what's the saying? Chance favors the prepared. So don't be scared. Be prepared is the old adage. With that being said, if you want real-time escalation alerts and early warning indicators delivered straight to you through our SDN's SHTF alert system, go to survivaldispatch.news. Get signed up there. We've got an awesome fellowship amongst our community. You get a ton of resources. You get behind-the-scenes access. You can ask us direct questions when Khalid is not in the field BFEing bad guys and he's at home base. He answers every single question that people place in our private community. So make sure you join up for that. I'm looking to see what else I got going on here. I don't want to forget tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, CBRN training with a preeminent subject matter expert, 8 p.m. for the Guardians. Check the Guardians chat for details on that. Part 2, 2026 SHTF comms is Sunday morning. It's an hour and 10-minute long video. Every radio that you see me that I show to you in that 1 hour and 10 minutes, there's 10 more. That's not an exaggeration, by the way. There's 10 more radios that I didn't show because they didn't pass muster and I wasn't willing to recommend them. And I'm looking to see if I got anything else. Yeah, actually I do. I got a very important audience poll to do here. We're always looking to improve survival dispatch news. So we have 12 episodes left in the Long War series out of 144. So this is number 132. It seems like we just started it yesterday, but it's gone in the blink of an eye. I'm going to introduce a fictional family called the Smith family. So Mark's 40 years old, Sarah's 38, their son Jake's 18, their daughter Emily is 12. And I'm going to use them as a regular example of the things we talk about in our podcast. So it'll be a short 5-minute segment. However, with that being said, I am contemplating doing an audio podcast Saturday, Sunday evening, kind of like we did as families 100 years ago, that follows the adventures of the Smith family in a post-apocalyptic world. So actually, the very first one will start with the thing that kicks it off. If you're interested in something like that, do me a favor, put a 1 in the live chat, whatever platform you're on right now. If you'd be interested in basically a survival dispatch themed audio podcast, Saturday, Sunday evenings, 1 hour long with the Smith family, following their adventures, because you're going to hear about the Smith family every single Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday here imminently. And again, it'll be like 5 minutes a night. So the podcast on the weekends will pull it all together for you. And I also have a get home video that's going to be done here shortly where Mark Smith is trapped on the 20th floor of his office building in a deep in an urban center. And the roads are closed. There's people being killed because there's jihadi shooting the place up. And he's got to get home. And it's going to probably be about a 20-minute adventure it's going to be a multi-hour adventure, but it's going to be a 20-minute video. It's kind of like consider it a pilot. It will have video, but the podcast I'm contemplating will be audio narrated like our grandparents used to sit around and listen to. So with that being said, we're going to transition. Oh, hold on a second. I hate that word transition. It's so dirty these days. don't forget our premier sponsor, Carnival, carnival.com. If you want to do a one-time buy, use the code EATMEAT, all one word, 10% off. If you sign up for a subscription with these guys and you forward your receipt to support@survivaldispatch.com each month, I give you the next month, and the next month for free on your Guardians membership. So essentially, if you have a subscription with Carnival, or I gotta reach into my stash or make sure nobody's watching me here. If you sign up for subscription with these guys, Wasatch Wagyu, you will also get the same thing. You just forward it to me. Subscription or any receipt you have over $99 gets you the next month for free on your Survival Dispatch Guardians membership. Don't buy the dill pickle. See this here? Sucks. I look after it. You guys get everything else. Best jerky in the world. You can eat, well, theoretically, I would say you could eat 10 or 12 a day and not have a sore jaw and be okay with it. SD20, S is in Sam, D is in David, 20 gets you 20% off. So that's all that stuff that I had to look after. Khalid, do you want to kick it off with anything, or do you want to get right into some expos? It's your call. And Randy, do you want to, would you like to go?
I'm going to go ahead and take off, guys. If it's all good with you, I'm sure. Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Yep. Have a good night, Randy.
Yep. Good night. Hey, good to see you as always, Khalid. Keep bringing the heat, baby. Keep bringing the heat.
All right,
we'll get this sorted out, Randy. We'll get it sorted out.
Hey, and we need to see you here sometime. That's all I'm going to say.
He's not going to do it till the Brotox wears off. All right,
guys.
Have a good night, Randy.
Take care, Randy.
Stick with us. Khalid and I are not leaving just yet. Khalid, you want to open it up with a, what do you call a monologue that's in the middle of a podcast? Because it's not the monologue. But anyway.
I'm just going to give you a quick update on the peace negotiations here in Pakistan with the U.S. and Iran.
Let me get you the other stage here. Let me get you on that stage. Let me get you on this stage. Okay, you're loaded up. Take it away.
Iran did not participate in the negotiations today because the ceasefire did not take one of their conditions. The 10 conditions they gave the U.S. was that a ceasefire would have to happen between Israel and Lebanon as well. Otherwise, they would not sit down at the negotiating table. The entire day today was a waste. We spent most of the day talking to different intelligence agencies. The Iranians refused to sit down. They refused to sit down with the U.S. and have a conversation. So that's been postponed till tomorrow because Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a ceasefire starting somewhere around midnight tonight, which should have started already. I don't see any positive coming from this. I mean, JD Vance has a lot of hope of this working out and something coming to pass with this, but when you talk to the different intelligence services, whether it be MI6 or the CIA or even the ISI or IRGC, everyone's saying the same thing, that we don't expect anything good to come out of this. Iran has taken a very hard position. The U.S. has also taken a very hard position. We are headed towards a lot more trouble. Iran doesn't trust the U.S., and they've openly said that in backroom conversations. They have seen the U.S. use negotiations as a cover before they carry out an attack. Russia has warned both Iran and Pakistan that the U.S. military buildup and the current peace negotiations that are going on is just cover before the U.S. carries out a ground invasion or a massive and this is the phrase the Russians used, a multi-domain attack on Iran. We don't see anything good coming from this because Iran, we had to escort them. We had to control the airspace with Pakistani Air Force over the Persian Gulf, over Iran, before the Iranis even got on a plane and flew to Pakistan. And the U.S. didn't ask us to do that when JD Vance came here. There's a lot of concern. Security level is so high right now that I can't even tell you where the negotiations are happening. The negotiation location that's been made public is not the actual place where the negotiations are happening, and we're not even allowed to make it public because it's a security risk if we talk about where it's actually happening. The movement, the level of security in Islamabad right now, we have not seen this before. And it's not the whole city. I mean, a lot of people need to understand this. It's not the entire capital city that's locked down. It's a section of the capital city that's locked down. And the biggest concern right now, and I'll be really open, this is the conversation I had with the CIA and the conversation I had with MI6. The concern right now with JD Vance being in the country is a terror attack. Because with the US vice president sitting in Pakistan right now and Afghanistan as unstable as it is a golden opportunity for them to attack. And it will bring so much retribution both on Iran and Afghanistan that we're very worried about having JD Vance in the country. I mean, I told some of his Secret Service guys, I said, can you get him out of the country? Can he do this via video conference rather than being in Pakistan? Because it's a massive security situation for us to have the vice president in the country. And because he's got his own security, we cannot control his movement. We cannot tell him where he can and can't go. That means that if a terrorist is someplace in Islamabad and decides that, you know, he's figured out the route to figure out how the movement of the vice president's going to be, an attack could happen. We're really worried about JD Vance being in the country. I'm not so worried about Jared Kushner being here. I'm not really worried about Steve Witkoff being here because they're not big targets. JD Vance is a huge target. And with Afghanistan the way it is, with Pakistan bombing the Afghanistan the way it has, peace negotiations between Pakistan and Afghanistan going on in China right now, Israel's threat against the defense minister of Pakistan that they're going to kill him because of a comment he made on X about Israel. It's a big security problem for us right now, and we want JD Vance out of the country as quickly as possible. Right now, we are talking 2 to 3 days of negotiations once the Iranis sit down at the table. I don't think it's going to take 2 to 3 days. I think this is going to be done in 24 hours because Iran is not going to budge, and neither is the U.S. And it sounds very negative the way I'm saying it, but Donald Trump's tweet today about the world going through a massive reset right now kind of says the exact same thing I'm saying, is that everyone knows that it's going to get worse after this.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. So check this out. This is, let me make sure I get the right one shared here. Here we go. Breaking. The United Nations is officially calling to isolate the United States. UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese, appointed by Antonio Guterres, calls on the 192 member states to isolate America. And that, I'm not going to play it. It's not in English, but that's the gist of it. What do you make of that, Cleet? I mean, I'm so over the UN. They need to get the fuck out of our country, and we need to just kill all their funding because they've already said they lose our money, they're cooked. So why are we funding people who hate our guts?
Yeah, Chris, I agree with you. I mean, the UN has been an absolute failure from the time it came into existence. Passing resolutions does nothing, and with the UN not having a military of their own, they are unable to enforce what they pass. Donald Trump said during his first administration he was going to kick the UN out of the United States, and I've been waiting for him to do it because the UN is more European than it is a international body. And why don't they just move to Brussels, where the EU has their headquarters? You represent the European Union more than you represent the values of the Western population. Leave the US. Get the hell out. Let's take the money away from them and let's see if they can operate. It's the same argument we have with NATO. If you take away the US money and the US military from NATO, it's game over. NATO cannot defend Europe. And Russia will take Europe very, very quickly. NATO needs to go, and the UN needs to go. But whether Trump will do it during this administration or not, I don't know.
Well, one can always hope that that'll happen. So check this out. This is the other one that I referred to. Kosher says, you cannot make this shit up at the UN. The Islamic Republic of Iran has just been nominated to the UN Committee for Program and Coordination. This policy responsibility involves women's rights, human rights, disarmament, terrorism prevention. And the countries who back this include the United Kingdom, Spain, Canada, France, Germany, Norway, Netherlands, Australia, Switzerland, Austria, Finland. 11 other countries supported this. We have to live in the world. Come on.
6 of them are people that have refused to give the U.S. Rights to use their airspace to attack Iran. Spain today reopened their embassy in Tehran. I don't understand why you would give this is like putting Afghanistan in as the head of women's rights at the United Nations. You're literally spitting in the face of the entire global population and saying, well, a country that is unable to govern itself, unable to provide any rights to its own people, we're going to say, okay, you have the right to decide how the world operates. That's just morally wrong. And the UN is an absolute failure for this reason, that everyone has to have a turn running a committee. Everyone has to have a turn running a committee, whether you're qualified or not. That needs to stop, because it has thrown the world into complete disarray. And for me, there's no third world country that deserves to head a UN committee, period, end of story. Period, end of story.
I couldn't agree more with you. So speaking of more out of bizarro world, Liz Churchill asked, who the fuck are the British planning to go to war with? UK's Chief of Defence Staff, Sir Richard Knighton, admits their government is preparing for a major plan to ready the whole country for a major global war. They have 70,000 people in their entire military. That's not 70,000 fighters. That's 70,000 people. Our spec ops team has an order of magnitude more people than their entire military does. They have no planes that are capable of large troop transports. They have to hire us to do all of that for them. These guys they're fucked, man. Listen to this.
I think the transition to conflict, transition to war, as it's described, NATO describes the transition to conflict, has a military component to it. It also has a civilian component to it. The SDR talked about how we protect our critical national infrastructure, and we also talk about how we need to build that resilience into the systems as we renew them. I talked before Christmas of the need that when we think about renewing our water infrastructure or our electricity or our transport infrastructure, to think about the threat of action from an adversary that is above the threshold of forces.
Just before I play the rest of this, we got to do a quick audience poll. If you think this guy's a tenderfoot homo, put a 1 in the live chat, because I'm pretty sure he's a little light in the loafers.
Not just a hybrid threat. And think about how we build in that resilience as we renew it. And that requires to make some different choices and different priorities. And that work that the Cabinet Office is doing across the whole of government is something I really welcome. I think
1 in the live chat if you think he's a flamer. Here come the ones.
One. Absolutely 1 a million times over.
Well, check this out. This is some pretty crazy shit. Congress has authorized President Trump to go to war with the Netherlands in the event that the ICC follows through on the arrest of American soldiers for war crimes. The Hague Invasion Act authorizes Trump to use all means necessary to free U.S. or allied personnel detained by the ICC in the Netherlands. You ready for this? European leaders are weighing arrest warrants for U.S. military officers who participated in Operation Epic Fury. If they do, President Trump will invoke the Hague Invasion Act, giving him the full legal authority to deploy military force to free any captured American. Europe is considering poking the one bear that has statutory permission to poke back. I'm going to tell you right now, we will bomb the living fuck out of you Eurofags if you try to do this. You will get the major war that you're looking for.
Yeah, Chris, here's the problem, though. I mean, the U.S. isn't a signatory on the International Criminal Court. I mean, the U.S. Clinton put the U.S. signed the agreement saying that the U.S. was part of the International Criminal Court. When Bush came to power, he canceled that agreement. So any warrant the ICC issues is not applicable to any American. I mean, you can arrest them or you can try and arrest them, but you don't have the right because the U.S. is not part of the ICC. This is nothing more than a propaganda effort to kind of show alliance with the Iranis, that we stand with you. The ICC has issued warrants for Netanyahu, for the defense minister of Israel, for the foreign minister of Israel. And even though they've gone to Europe, they have not been arrested. So again, this is the ICC is as much of a joke as the UN is, as NATO is, because you have no power to enforce what you say, period.
Well, it's even worse than that, Khalid. So not only do they not have any power to enforce jack shit, but check this out. Breaking. Islamists attack British soldiers as they enter Ministry of Defense building. Basil the Great says deport every single one of them. Why are they even here? British military runs away from these, refrigerator temp IQ scumbags from third world. You'll see, what's that thing called again, Khalid? That thing right there, a Kufa, whatever. What's that thing right there?
Kifaya.
Yeah, okay. You hear them all yelling Allah Akbar in the background. I'll tell you what, the British are in way over their head, and we're not saving you fags, period. Not going to happen.
Here's the thing, Chris. I don't understand what the British chief of army staff was talking about. Your country's been invaded, and you've allowed the invasion. You've done nothing against them. And if we go backwards, if you remember about 3 months ago, France warned all of their hospitals to start preparing for mass casualty events and to prepare for massive war. They made this statement 3 months ago. We covered it on the podcast as well. Now the British are saying the same thing. I don't understand if you're preparing for war with Russia because you're standing by Ukraine, or if you're preparing for the radical invasion that has come into your countries and that group revolting against you as they are in Ireland. At some point, you have got to decide if you're going to be British or if you're going to be invaded. I mean, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, these were all colonies of Great Britain at one point. We have now colonized Great Britain, and the British say it, that, we used to colonize these countries. Now they've come and colonized us. You've got to make a decision as to whether you are going to be British or whether you're going to be a colony of some of these third world countries that you used to rule. I don't see the British being able to do anything. You have been so invaded by the Muslim Brotherhood. You've been so brainwashed by the Muslim Brotherhood that you are so scared to even do anything. I mean, you can't take your country back. How are you going to fight a war against somebody else?
Well, do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, I do.
There you have it right there. Keir Starmer. He's going to lead the charge. That's not AI.
The Queen himself.
That's 100% not AI. I checked it earlier today. That's Keir Starmer prepares plan to take the UK to war. Ministry of Defense has been informed to prepare the UK for a war footing. Absolutely no one will fight for this man. No one will die in Ukraine or Iran. Our enemies are here in Britain.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm not going to, you know what? I'll play like 2 seconds of this, but we're now getting into the BFE part. here, Cleed, and I think I've only got one or two left after this. Palestinian Islamic preacher, virgins of paradise will have no menstruation, saliva, mucus, urine, or excrement. Muslim men will have the sexual strength of 100 men. We will have several wives and slaves in paradise. Dr. Balouf asks, why is it all about sex in the afterlife for them? This is in pig Latin here. Listen to this.
الحمد لله الذي خلق الحور الحسان كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Goat fucker. Thoughts on this, Khalid?
I don't want to say this as an Islamophobe, but I want to say it in the terms of that an Islamophobe would say it in. If these goat fuckers would stop, screwing animals, they'd realize that you don't need to wait till you get to heaven to have a nice wife, a beautiful woman. Those things all exist right now, but because you're so interested in boys, transgenders, and animals, you don't understand that everything you're waiting for in heaven, you have here. For me, I always look at these guys and I go, dude, what is your problem? I mean, here in Pakistan, because it's a Muslim country, I'll give you an example here. In Pakistan, marriages are arranged by families. You don't marry someone you love. Your parents pick somebody for you and you end up married to them. They have all your babies, but you have 3 or 4 girlfriends on the side. That's how Pakistan works. When you cross the border into Afghanistan, you have the same marriage system, but you go out and you buy boys. It's called bachabazi. Someone just posted it in the comments.
Yep.
You go out and buy young boys that you purchase for pleasure. They dance for you, they dress up for you, they have sex with you, and it's legal. When the U.S. was in Afghanistan, the U.S. military was told not to do anything about this practice because it would turn people against the U.S. military. I don't understand how these preachers, quote unquote, are talking about heaven when they're doing everything that is haram, everything that is illegal in Islam while they're alive. So how are you going to get to heaven when everything you're doing right now in the real world is going to ban you from going into heaven?
You got me, Khalid, but I got to say something here. You said Islamophobe, and you see people frequently say Islamophobia. So my blood heritage is Greek, and the word phobia comes from the Greek word phobos, phobos, and a direct translation of that word, depending on the context, means one of 3 things: fear, panic, or terror. I'm not scared of any of these goat fuckers, not one of them. So to say people like us are, Islamophobes, not a fucking chance. But straight up hater. There's no phobia. It's straight up hate. Period.
I put them on the ground, Chris. I literally, one part of the operations we do at Command 11 is putting these bastards in the ground. We don't hate them. We have a phrase at Command 11. You want to meet Allah? We'll arrange the meeting.
There you go. Some people should be careful what they wish for. They may
just
get it. Next one up here. To beat up a disabled and defenseless grandmother, you have to have an IQ lower than that of a jellyfish. Check this out.
You smell like food.
So this is in the UK where they've imported all of these scumbags.
Oh, you better girl.
Break that shit up, bro.
I can't. She's holding.
All right, that's it. Break it up, baby. Okay.
I know what you're going to say. Go ahead, say it.
BFE. This needs to be a law passed in every country in the world. Anyone whose IQ level is below their shoe size needs to be put in the ground End of story. Because the world has turned into violence has become
anybody's IQ that is below room temperature, not shoe size.
Yeah, but for me, shoe size is most of these people that are doing this kind of stuff, they couldn't even carry on a normal conversation with you. Their automatic reaction is violence and stupidity, which means their IQ level is 0.
It's pretty low.
These people need to be taken off the chessboard completely. And I really, really wish that a lot of countries would pass the kind of law that we have here in Pakistan, that it's not stand your ground, it's beat the fuck out of them, torture the hell out of them, and then put them in the ground. It makes it so much easier, because you put a lesson out there for other people that if you do this in my country, this is what happens to you.
I'm down with that. So last one for tonight, Khalid. There's a longer version of this video. I want to run an audience poll here. Here is probably one of the worst male examples of the 1,000 milligram stare that I've ever seen. And again, there's a longer version of this. Our society has lost their damn minds. They're jacked up on SSRIs. It's now been proven that those Charlie 19 pokey things cause unhinged behavior as this, a period of time goes on and on and on. I think this guy's like a victim of both. He's a complete piece of shit, needs to be locked up. This is unreal, man. Like, I mean, unreal.
No, or I will fucking end you. Do you understand?
This is partway through the video, by the way.
To me.
So before that, there's another 3 minutes of that shit. And when he showed up, the first thing he said, Khalid, where's your daughter? Send out your daughter. Open this door. And there's 3 minutes of that before this happens.
Don't move.
That woman's a liability. Get her out of there, for crying out loud. It's 120 pounds soaking wet. So if y'all check on X, you'll find the full length deal on that video. It's absolutely batshit insane. Where'd we land on the poll here on the 1,000 milligram stare? We're all the way down around 1,000. And I got to disagree with the audience on this one. That's at least 5,000 milligram stare. Cannot be anything less than that at all.
That's mentally messed up. I mean, arresting him means he's going to get bail. He's going to be put back on the streets again. The idea of an asylum where you lock somebody up for the rest of their lives and you can drug them and you can sedate them and you can do whatever you want with them in that asylum. We need to bring back electroshock therapy and use it on all these people that have the 100,000 milligram stare, because people like this can't be fixed.
We need to bring back full frontal lobotomies. So I knew a guy, he was older than me. His name was Irving Strand, and his father's name was, I think it was like HERV. He came here from the Netherlands, Holland, something like that. Okay, you ready for this? So Irving was like 6'6", 6'7". He wasn't really big and muscular, but he was a complete nutcase and he loved to fight. And multiple times he beat the shit out of cops. So he was at this bar, and you kind of had to walk down this huge stairwell that was, I don't know, 10 feet wide. There's like a little bit of a landing. Then you go through these glass doors to get into this bar. And he gets into it with 4 cops, and he put all 4 of them in the hospital. So they dispatch a few more cars, and they finally get him under control. This is in late 80s, early 90s. And this incident was early 80s. And the story I'm fixing to tell you was late 80s, 90s, because there's a second part to it. So up until that point in time, you know, they'd put him away. He'd gone to prison. He got out on parole, but he was just a mean guy. That last one, he ended up getting a full frontal lobotomy as a result of it. So they put him in an institution for the criminally insane. They did a full frontal lobotomy on him, which turned him into a complete, you know, vegetable. And they let him out. You ready for this? It was freezing cold this one day. Now, I lived out in the country. I don't even remember what the temperature was. It was just freezing freaking cold. And I can see from like a mile away, there's somebody walking down the side of the road in this, you know, brutal weather. And as I get closer, I realize that it's Irving Strand, and he has no gloves on. He has no winter jacket. He's got a thin jean jacket on, and he had a lit cigarette sticking in both ears. And that's how, I kid you not, and that's how he thought he was going to keep himself warm, is by putting a lit cigarette in both of his ears. And I mean, you're talking 10 miles out of town, and this guy would walk into town, do whatever, walk back again. If you're in favor of bringing back full frontal lobotomies for these types of people, like we just watched that video, put a 1 in the live chat. You got a couple minutes left to do it, because I got another great closing video tonight. But that's basically it, Cleet. I appreciate you joining and adding to the sit rep in particular. I'll be back Sunday evening, usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern. My personal podcast, it's on my Substack. So cheaven.substack.com. So the letter C and the word heaven, just like my name right there. Chris Heaven, cheaven.substack.com, or go to my X, which is at Survival Report. I don't send my Sunday night podcast anywhere else, because I would get, you know, deplatformed again off of CommuTube and stuff like that. And by the way, if this the Smith family post-apocalyptic audio broadcast, if I decide to proceed with that, I'm just kind of considering it right now, it'll actually replace my Sunday night podcast. So there'll be a Saturday night podcast audio with the Smiths. Throw out some good names before the video ends, by the way. If you got any good names for a post-apocalyptic audio-only podcast every Saturday, Sunday night, following the life and times of the Smith family in a post-apocalyptic America, not to mention the fact you're going to get 5 minutes of them every podcast through the week based on whatever the topic is. But drop a 1 in the live chat if you'd like to see that. Anyway, I can't send my Sunday night stuff right now anywhere else. They get me kicked off for sure. But if you want a real-time intel, instead of guessing, you want to stay connected when others get isolated, get inside the Guardian Network. Go to survivaldispatch.news. $9.99 a month, $99.99 a year. Gets you 2 months for free. That's where all of the stuff you hear us discussing on air, we bring it all together in the Guardian community. We give a shit ton of content away for free, but the Guardians, they get a lot of value for basically 33 cents a day. That's it for tonight. God bless our law enforcement officers. God bless our military. God bless America. Enjoy the closing video. It stays within the theme of the week, but fast forward, I don't know, maybe 1,000 years or so to modern times. Godspeed, y'all.
We ran through the fields, bare feet on the ground. You became my brother through the bond we found. Teenage years up to no good, bringing trouble to the neighborhood. You have always been there Together we will ride. We fight side by side. We will never back down for the glory of the crown. Never fear, we are forgiven. We will meet again in heaven. Under any threat or strife, I will gladly give up my life for my brother in Christ. Grown up in the world we face, we stand together in his holy place. My wingman when I found the one, you are the godfather of my son. Help me up when I slip, keep me in line. We march together by his holy sign. We stand tall as our faith aligns. In our hearts his glory will shine. We are the brotherhood of the divine. Together we will ride. We fight side by side. We will never back down for the glory of the crown. Never fear, we are forgiven. We will meet again in heaven. Under any threat or strife, I will gladly give up my life for my brother in Christ. For my brother. From childhood dreams to the life unknown, through joy and pain our bond has grown. We stand renewed.